One of the great pleasures of doing this podcast for me is getting to hang out with the incredible students from this community, the students of the Proven Amazon course who have built beautiful businesses and then share their stories on our show. We've heard hundreds of episodes that meet that exact description. If this is the first time listening, there's hundreds of those episodes at silentjimdotcom. You can go check them out. Most people who consume this show listen on iTunes, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And today's no exception. Business building warrior, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. And let's get into an interview here in just a moment with Mike and Brittany, beautiful married couple young kids, been doing all kinds of different business models for most of their young lives, but they're really getting excited about this Amazon replens thing. They're doing it together. They're in our coaching program, which if you didn't know about our coaching program, let me tell you just a little bit about that. You can find a link at silentjim.com that will take you right to the page where there's all kinds of info. Set up a phone call, have a conversation with us about it, see if it's a good fit. But we've coached nearly 10,000 e-commerce business building warriors over the past 20 years, which is just incredible. Currently, we have a team of about 60 coaches. And get this, this is unique in the industry. No one else does this to my knowledge. Every single one of our coaches is a successful student of the Proven Amazon course training. We recruited them in because they've got a teacher's heart and a beautiful, successful business. They've got a little extra spare time because they've automated their systems. So they're able to coach other people to do the same thing. And you hear Mike and Brittany talk about how valuable that's been for them. You can go to jimcockrumcoaching.com or find the page just by going to silentjim.com, click on coaching, have a conversation with our team. I love how excited they are about their coaches today, as you'll soon hear in just a couple of moments. Like I said, Mike and Brittany have been serial entrepreneurs. They've launched a few different businesses, tried a few different things. They are all in on the Proven Amazon course system, starting with the basic system that we start all of our new sellers out with. It's called the replens system. It's the foundation of so many other things that you can go on to do, but you got to learn the basics first, and that's where they are. Now, when I say basics, don't think that that means you're not going to make much money with this. We've got people who have built seven-figure businesses selling multiple six figures monthly on Amazon at great margins with just this basic level introductory business model that we call replens. And they're going to talk about that business today. That's where they are. They recently hit $10,000 in sales for a month. They're going to talk about all the numbers, all the details, how they find their inventory. They've even brought a virtual assistant on their team, someone that they pay hourly, just a few dollars per hour, actually, to find great inventory for their business and how they did that. It's not a complex thing. By the way, did you know that in the Philippines, the average hourly wage is $1 per hour, which means if you pay someone $2 or $3 per hour, you're paying them 2 or 3 times minimum wage, which is a tremendous income for that economy. So you have an opportunity to find someone who speaks English and can work hard on your business and understands technology and follow the instructions that you've given them for your Amazon business, and they're doing the hard lifting. You can reward them, of course, as things become successful, but it doesn't cost you a lot to experiment and find people who can do that with you. So we spend some time talking about that today, as well as some of the challenges and struggles that they're facing. To be very realistic, any business requires blood, sweat, work, and tears. You're going to hear that as a theme today for sure. But they've got proof of concept. They're building a beautiful business. They've integrated their family into it. I love that they pray for the success of their business as a family. Just such a insight into this family and how they operate. And I know they've got a very bright future because they're doing all the right things and they've got the momentum. One last thing that I'm going to point out before we introduce Mike and Brittany in a moment. They're coming to our conference in July along with hundreds of other listeners to this show. We'd love to see you at, here's the website. If you write anything down, this is it, The Proven Conference. TheProvenConference.com is the website. Get there now. Get your tickets, join us. We've got live stream option now available as well, which gets you all the recordings. Don't wait till the show gets here. Don't wait till the conference is here to buy your tickets for live stream because the price goes way up once the conference starts. You want to get them ahead of time. Go to theprovenconference.com, get your discounted live stream tickets that get you all the sessions, all the recordings, 40 breakout sessions, talking about some of the most cutting edge Amazon content and topics as taught by the most successful students in our community. You do not want to miss this. So if you can't be there live, July 6th through 8th in Columbus, Ohio, you can certainly join us online and meet hundreds of great people like the guests that we're going to bring on right now. Mike and Brittany are my guests. Let's bring them on and hear their story. Enjoy. So Mike and Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hey, all the listeners out there, this is going to be a good one. I got to know these guys a little bit ahead of time. I can't wait to dive into their story. Great couple. And let's dive into it. Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we actually got onto your mailing list. Actually, I was taking a look on my emails. It looks like it was 2019 that
Okay.
I discovered your show. So I've been, I'm a part of the YouTube University alumni, and so I'm always
Okay.
constantly online searching for, how to make some extra income, diversifying your income streams. And it wasn't until last year though that I started heavily consuming your podcast regularly. And I think that was back around, I think it was probably like around April, May that I really started diving into your content. And I told my wife like, hey, Amazon has been on my radar before, but we hadn't figured out exactly what we're going to do to actually get into the business. And then when I found yours and I heard about replens, it was like, okay, this makes sense. And so I told my wife, and she understood the concept. She listened to an episode or so.
I'm not a big podcast person. I will put that out there. I'm not heavy on the podcast, but if he catches something good, I'm like, tell me about it. I want to hear it. If it really has your attention, tell me about it. So that's
Yeah.
how I got introduced to you.
That's awesome. And that's how, any wise husband runs anything important past his wife, even if she's investigated only a fraction as much as he has. Just
There you go.
instincts. In our house, it's like the voice of the Holy Spirit. That's my wife. Like she knows 5 minutes worth of something that I've been studying for months. I still value every thought that she has, because she just has a different way of processing it. So that's great. I love that you guys are doing this as a couple. Great.
Very much so. Very much. It has to feed both of us, have to agree before we're moving forward on it. So
That's great. And so that's about a year ago as we're recording, just to give a bit of a timeline of, the year of May of 2023. You've been listening to the podcast about a year, like you said. All right, let's keep us rolling.
So from there, I think it was about, so that was May. So I believe like around June. Yeah, around June, we decided we got our solar account. And we said, hey, initially me, I'm in the financial space. And so, as a financial advisor, like I'm always talking about investments. And so business is always one of the investments that I like to go into. So I'm ready to go all in. I'm like, hey, let's get a coach right from the beginning. But, my
He's
wife.
an easy sell.
Oh, come on.
All marketers are.
So I'm very opportunistic, so, I always see the opportunity in different business models. But, I wanted to go to coaching right off the gate. And she told me, hey, let's give it a try ourselves, right? Let's see how it works. And if we run into some hurdles and we really need it, let's do it. And so, yeah, we had an agreement that we would reevaluate after the first month. And so I think, July, we did it all in ourselves, ran into some hurdles. She was frustrated with gating, and there were a couple of things with just like getting shipments out that was a concern. And so she was like, all right, you know what, let's do the coaching. And I'm like, all right, she's in, do it. And so we got paired up with Gary and Gay Mosley, right? Two fantastic coaches.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't say enough about them. And we got our first shipment sent out, I think like the beginning of September. And we got our first sale on September 27th of last year.
Yeah.
So that's where we got the bug. We're in it. It's like, okay, this is real. Let's do this. And from the beginning, we really had a goal of making this a business that's generating, as much income as my primary job is, right? Get to a point where this can be a six-figure business where it's, automated. And that was one of the criteria when we were deciding to go into this, is that we wanted to make sure it was online, right? We didn't have to be at a brick or mortar. We could be anywhere traveling. And that's why, we love that we have Gary and Gay as our coaches, because, what they have is what we want to build towards, right?
Yeah. Yes. Call us while they're actually on the road. So
exactly. They're not making it up. You don't know where they're going to be. We've got a lot of coaches on our team. Is like you track them down. Like, where are you today? Like, business is in their pocket. It can be anywhere.
Yeah.
So very much inspiration for us.
So that was, very, very enticing for us. And so we knew that we wanted to make this work. Right. And, I think, the experiences that we've had in some of the other businesses that we've got into, I'm kind of like a serial entrepreneur, right? I've dabbled into a lot of things, but this is the one thing that I'm like, you know what, I'm going to stick with this thing until it becomes, fruitful enough to allow us to take those fruits and invest into other business ideas that we've had in the past. And so, we look at this as one of the many income streams that we plan on growing. And I think it was important to see it as such, not just like a hobby or, oh, I'm going to try this and see how it works. I think right from the beginning, we were very determined that, hey, we're going to make this work. And even as we're having this conversation with you today, we're not anywhere near where we want to be. But, and that's why we even appreciate you even more, that you even be interested enough to have us, considering the fact that, we just cracked 10,000 last month for the first time, right? And so that's only a fraction of what I've heard I think the last podcast I was listening to, the gentleman did 300,000 in FBM sales. And I was just like,
in a month.
In a month, right?
Yeah. It blows me away.
Right. So I'm like, okay, we're not even, anywhere near there, but I can see ourselves getting to that point, right? And that's what I think is the benefit of the community that you've built, is that there's so many different business models and success stories that you can literally pick and choose and say, all right, which one do I want to emulate? Which one do I want to build something similar to? And figure out what they did to do it. And all you got to do is listen to the podcast, reach out to the group. And that's one thing that I think I've been in a lot of different Facebook groups as far as like learning different business models. And your group is the first group I've been to where people are just so supportive. People are just so open. Before I even ask a question, I always just search Facebook and say, okay, how do I set up, inventory lab? And the answers are there,
Yeah, I usually ask them, did you look it up in the Facebook group first before? It's like, oh, I'm stuck on this. Like, I'm not sure how we're supposed to be sending this small shipment. I'm like, check the Facebook group. Just ask first. And usually it's someone's asked that question. There's an answer in there. Everything is pretty accessible. And like you said, we really feel like we have that support system that we need. And especially for us, I feel like whenever we go on one of these endeavors, like for us, we're trying to get as much information as possible. Again, like he was ready, like, let's get the coaching, let's get the whole team. I'm more like, okay, let's try it our way first. Like, put in a little elbow grease on our end first. And then if we need the extra support, but, like he said, it didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped in the beginning. So once we got connected with the program, I felt like, it was a huge jump ahead.
It was. It was.
Yeah, like
Mike was just talking about the the $10,000 levels. Like, it's not quite where we want to be yet, but I mean, Mike, you've seen a lot of businesses. You're a serial entrepreneur, you called yourself, which isn't an easy person to be married to, by the way, Brittany. I feel your pain through my wife. She's told me.
Okay.
I think serial entrepreneurs are awesome, personally, but we've learned in our household when I come up with a new idea, he doesn't say how. She says, "Wow," and just lets me play, right? Like, yeah, he'll write that one down on a business card, a 3x5 card, and he'll get it stuck in a shelf somewhere and bring it up again. So just be impressed. And
I tell him I'm the anchor. I like to tell him I'm holding on to his ankle to keep him just a little bit from the ground a little bit.
We all need one. I mean, can you imagine the disaster of two daydreaming serial entrepreneurs?
You got to have a balance.
Have to. And I love how God just has a way of just bringing those right people. You don't even know when you're a kid, this person is the perfect balance.
Yeah.
Place, right? It's just so great. But, that 10,000, let me talk about that for a second, because here's where I was going. A lot of people start businesses. The vast majority of people that start businesses never see anything.
Yeah.
So the fact that you guys have proof of concept, validation, that's awesome. And I love doing these interviews with these students who are just starting to see that momentum and that validation, because the feedback we get, we've done over 600 episodes now like this, where we've interviewed people from our community. People, you mentioned the episode last week with the $300,000 a month. A lot of people will see that and go, that's someone else's, that's 4 years from now at best. I can't put myself in his shoes. People will hear you guys have right now, like, okay, a few months ago, they were kind of clueless and struggling, and now they just had a $10,000 sales month. What do these people have to say? So people can relate, is what I'm trying to say. So that's why I love doing these episodes. We didn't used to do them. It was all the big, 6 figures kind of stories, 6 figures a month.
Rock stars.
Yeah, the rock stars, right? But people, and we've got plenty of those. People won't go to hear those stories, but I think they can relate more to proof of concept. All we have to do now is scale. Like, what's it like to go from 0 to those first few steps? So keep it going. But I just wanted to throw that out there. So you guys are doing arguably a more valuable service to the community right now than the last episode that you're referring to, which will be a couple of weeks ago for the listeners. where the guy's doing $300,000 a month, merchant fulfill out of his garage. That just feels unattainable to many people, I think, probably.
Yeah.
And I would say I actually probably relate to a lot of those people that feel kind of he does tell me these, super success stories, and
Right?
I kind of just like roll my eyes at him. I can't lie. I kind of do roll my eyes.
Yeah.
Don't think it's unattainable at all. I don't think it's unattainable. But as rookies in the game, and we just got to 10,000, and that was, a real
A lot
climb
of
for
work.
us. Yeah, when he's telling me, this guy started like 3 months ago and he made a gazillion dollars, and it just sounds like nonsense to me, of course. So
Yeah.
for me, I do tend to look for the people that have similar experiences to me.
Yeah.
Rock star people, they are great motivations for me. I think one of the great things about Michael and I's relationship is we're very much like dreamers and go-getters, and we have these big goals for ourselves, and we're able to like see that vision. But for me, I move at a slower pace than him. So I just want to see like, more a couple steps ahead of me. He's like
Mhm.
way in the future, he's bought the rocket already. He's already to the moon. So for me, I just need, someone similar in my experience when I look at these kind of stories and stuff.
Yeah, and I appreciate that feedback, and we heard a lot of that as we started. A lot of people saying, "I can't relate to some of these folks. They're 2, 3 years in, they have all these big numbers, and they know all the terminology and all the acronyms." And then I did a few episodes with folks who are kind of like you guys, newer in the journey, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. So we did a little strategy shift. It's like,
Yeah.
rock stars, yeah, we'll let you speak at the event and create content, but this show has been a lot more of the, 10,000 a month or 20,000 first month. Or I've been doing this for a year and I'm at, you know, 25,000 a month. And here's how I did it. People can relate. So
Yeah,
we want to encourage people that what's possible, validate the opportunity, show them there's real people doing it all day, every day, show them hundreds of examples of that so we can kill every excuse they might have and just
yeah,
get them started. We know if we can get them started and get a month or two of focused effort and energy, they'll see for themselves.
yeah.
This is a great business. So thank you guys for doing this. This will be a very valuable episode, I guess, is kind of the point we're making for sure.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
yeah, keep the story going. I mean, what started working for you guys? You mentioned you're loving your coaches at this point. You're
Yep.
a few months in, September of 2022, your first shipment goes in, make your first sale.
Yeah, so I would say, getting to level. Let me just kind of recap at least the last few months where we've been. I wrote down some numbers here,
Cool.
um, and so we talked about 10,000 last month, but what we didn't talk about was that it was at an 8% margin, right? And so I know from those that listen, they say, "Hey, 20% is the average. That's the goal of where we want to be." And when I told my wife, he reached out to me. She was like, "Why? We had 8% margin. Like, what are we celebrating? You know what I'm saying?" But the reality of what I told her is it kind of alluding to what you had mentioned earlier just now is that, yeah, it's great to hear that conversation about the gentleman that's doing 300,000 or 100,000, but how cool is the behind the scenes of the road to get there? I'm like, I have no doubt in my mind, like she says, I'm so far down the future. I know we'll get to that level, but this is where we are now. We need to celebrate those small wins, right?
Yeah,
And so the fact that we hit the milestone of 10,000, although it was only at an 8% margin, I know the lessons that I've learned this month I'll be able to apply it to the business next month and so on and so forth. And it's just going to compound, right? And so that's why, I was excited to get on and kind of share like, yeah, everybody doesn't start at 20%. They don't start at 300,000. They start at losses, right?
Yeah.
Most businesses do. And so we're
Most
going to
businesses do. I mean, you buy a franchise, you're in the hole for 5, 7 years before it
right from the
starts to
beginning.
give you a little monthly something, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
And this isn't that. This is getting paid while you learn.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and so and one of the terms that you use, I've heard it a different way before too, is you want to be in a position in a business that where you can learn while you earn, but eventually you're going to drop the L and just continue to earn, right? You're going
Yeah.
to continue to grow and make money, but in the beginning you're learning, right? You're learning, and like you mentioned, this business model. I look back at my last few months. February we did 14% margin. March, we actually were negative. We were down $106, right? And then April, we were up again, 10,000, 8% margin. So far this month, we're tracking at 18% margin. We're about 4,900, almost 5,000 for the month this far. So, it looks like we'll be able to hit the 10,000 mark plus some. but we literally, I just made my payment today on for my attorney to get brand registered. And so
Yeah.
now it ate up all my profits. So technically I'm down to like, $50 in profit, right? For
Right.
this month.
Investment, though.
Exactly. That's a one-time investment.
Yes.
So, that's the
Yeah.
next step of our journey is, becoming brand registered. We're going to be working with our coaches on how to create a bundle, how to really create that moat, right? Create that competitive advantage. And my wife has tons of great ideas when it comes to, branding and commercial ideas and just how to, really creatively do reviews, right? And add video. And that was one of the things that we were going to talk to you about as well, how to incorporate the video and the social media around your brand to help boost sales, right? So but yeah, we're looking at that as the next evolution of our business as we continue to nail down what makes a good replenish, right? How do I boost my margins up? How do I
Yeah.
find better products? And so we're still very much early in the learning stages. We're crawling, we're moving, but we're still moving, and that's for me the biggest thing. And so we came on today wanted to being able to share like 3 tips that can at least help you get to that first 10,000.
Awesome. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And so that first tip for us was set that goal. So we alluded to it earlier that,
Yeah.
hey, we came into this business knowing that, hey, we want to at least our first marker hit that 10,000, right?
Yeah.
And I
And
had it
you
in
hit
my,
it. And that's
yeah,
worth celebrating. Absolutely. Even at 8 points of margin. Because, the thought I just had, for those who aren't aware, and you guys may know this, maybe you don't, but you look at a company like Amazon. I mean, Amazon's huge. They didn't
Mhm.
make any money for the first several years. Every penny they made went back into building a warehouse or technology. A lot of people are like, oh, Amazon doesn't pay any taxes. Everyone that works there is paying a lot of taxes because they're getting paid. But the company, they don't make any money. If they earn some profits, just like what you guys did, you earn some net margin. And hey, we're going to go pay an attorney and get our brand registry. Well, that's money out of your profit. So you didn't make any money. Good news is you're not going to be paying a lot of taxes, but you're building an infrastructure upon which something amazing can be planted. And that's what happened with Amazon. They didn't earn any money forever. And then suddenly they're just making huge amounts of money. And it was strategic. You take some commas and zeros off those numbers, and that's kind of what you guys are doing. You can afford to do it. You've got some other income streams, it sounds like. So you're just reinvesting back into this, building a beautiful infrastructure, a foundation that you can later stack some really serious income producing blocks on. I love that you're starting to get into branded bundles as well. That's kind of the line in the sand for me where people can start talking about some of these more creative things. Once you hit that $10,000 sales month, you know enough about how the Amazon universe works that you can start experimenting, start playing around with some things. And provenbrandbuilding.com is the module that's inside the Proven Amazon course. As you guys will know, I'm saying this for the listeners' sake, that teaches you that brand bundling concept. And it sounds like your coaches are starting you through that process of, creating those unique bundles that set you apart on the platform. Only you can sell these things. And we go through all the details of that. So I love that you guys are starting that discussion. So that 8% is nothing to be shy away from. That's a profitable business
Yeah.
that has a beautiful foundation now laid and beautiful things to come. I love it. So you're getting into your tips, man. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to make that point about Amazon didn't make any money forever. Look at them now.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wealthiest
Yeah.
company on the planet. That's a great way to launch a business. Just keep pouring it back in.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So part of that first step of setting a goal, kind of to the point that you mentioned on a regular basis, is write it down, right? So right here is actually my journal, right, where I
Nice.
keep track on a daily our business, and there's a quote that says, what gets measured gets managed, right? And so you have to look at your business and say, hey, all right, last month I got X amount in sales. Did I hit my goal? Did I not? But why did I get those sales,
Yeah.
right? Why did I not hit my goal? And I can easily look back on every month that I've gotten, our sales been up, they've been down, whatever the margins have been. And I can see, okay, this month I only found 30 new ASINs. The other month I found 40 new ASINs, 60. I didn't track, I didn't hit. Basically, our goal is to find at least one ASIN a day,
Yeah.
right? As part of the pack training, or 30
Yes.
and 30 days. And so
Yep.
we've kept that same model throughout, our entire business. Every day, the number one goal, as you say, is feed the beast, right?
Yeah.
How do you get better margins? You test more ASINs,
Yeah.
And
right?
more reasons. Yep.
Find more reasons. And so, I think as far as the tip goes, set the goal, and you got to be able to reverse engineer the goal. One thing that our coaches gave us was a picture of like a spreadsheet that shows, hey, if your goal is $10,000 a month or 20,000 or 40 or whatever it is, this is how much you need to be buying in
Yeah.
inventory a week.
Right.
right? And this is how much that will generate in sales. And
Yep.
at 20% margin, this will generate your profit, right?
Yeah.
And so I have it in my favorites, picture, and I frequently look at it and say, okay, this week I need to spend about $1,000 in inventory to test. So that way I can hopefully get 20% in margin and I can get the profit that I'm looking to get. But if you're not sending in the inventory, if you're not buying daily, then yeah, of course you're not going to get your sales number
Yeah.
or even have a shot at it because you are not testing anything. So I would say once you set that goal, write it down and then track it. And the second tip my wife is going to go into, and I think that's staying accountable, and she can share how she helps us with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So I would say accountability and consistency kind of go hand in hand. Definitely for us, the way our marriage and relationship works is we always try to kind of be that support to each other. So whether it's, this year we decide to get back in the gym. So it's kind of like, hey, are we going to the gym today or are we not? This is the goal. Like, and so even when it's a day off or, he's not feeling well, I'm not feeling well, it's always that other person that kind of jumps in and is like, okay, we still have to get that one ace in, even if, you got to sit next to a box of tissues because your nose is running, you got to get the ace in. So
That's awesome.
yeah, for us, it's definitely a partnership. But I've also talked to, other friends of mine who have their own businesses, or even some that people I've met who are interested in Amazon. And, I always say, if you're going to get into it, take it seriously. Be accountable for it. If the goal is ace in a day, make sure you're hitting that goal. No excuses. A lot of times, though, we're able to talk ourselves out of something if we don't have somebody else to kind of keep us accountable. Now, luckily, I married this wonderful guy, so that's an easy partner to kind of keep myself accountable. But I talk to my friends and I say, call me, call another friend, call a family member, and ask them like, hey, can you be my accountability partner? Can you call me, every other week, every week, ask me, did I meet those goals? And stay consistent with it. Like I said, there's going to be days where, like, I mean, I've had days when, I've been at it for hours and I call him and I'm like, it's just not working. There's no ASINs. Like, this is a setup. I don't know why, but I can't find anything. And he's just like, okay, take yourself, 30-minute break. We live in Florida, so I'll walk outside and,
Some fresh air.
fresh air, and
Right.
I'll come back at it because, again, at the end of the day, we have a goal, and in order to reach that goal, you have to stay accountable. You have to stay consistent with what you need to be doing in order to reach that goal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's just occurring to me listening to you talk, Brittany, that it doesn't have to be someone who's in the same business you are or someone from our community. It can be just a trusted friend or a mentor or a family member, not unlike the people who are using an accountability partner to drop a bad habit.
Yeah,
Like, I just need someone that that I can call when it's rough. Could you be that person, I love that. That's a great suggestion because typically we do everything we can. Just as a little side note, for this community, we've got about 73,000 people in our Facebook group. We made a post just yesterday that a lot of people participated in. You can get into our Facebook group and search for the closest big city near you and see who has mentioned that city over the past months or years, and then contact that person by private message. Form a mastermind around people who are doing the business, right?
right.
But just listening to you talk, Brittany, it doesn't have to be someone from this community. It doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, even just someone that has that gift of encouragement, maybe that gift of, you know,
Yeah,
they've really stuck it out. They've stuck through some difficult situations. They've overcome some things. And it would be their pleasure to remind you that, oh, poor you. You had to spend an extra hour doing some research. Remember when I
yeah,
fought cancer for 9 months? Remember
yeah,
that? Right? Like we
yeah.
all need that person that can just kind of remind us how blessed we are and keep us moving
Tough love.
forward. It doesn't have to be another business person. That's what popped in my head as I was listening to you talk. I love it. Consistency and accountability, two great words for sure.
Yeah. And one other piece that she kind of, I think, introduced to for our business that I think needs to be added into there is that, if you are religious people, like us, we grew up
Yeah.
Christians, pray for your business, right? Like treat it like it's actually another part of the family and you
Mhm.
want to be blessed, right? And, you want to be very intentional for, what you want out of, God, out of the universe, that you are very intentional about your business. And so that's one thing that has been very helpful, I think, for
Yeah,
us.
we pray as a family every night. We have two younger kids. We have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. She does not really participate, but I
She's
like to
one.
think she's getting something just by running around us while we pray. Uh,
Oh, absolutely. And that's I'll
yeah,
give you guys a little cool parenting thing. Speaking of picking something up, just kind of while wandering around the parents, you guys will like this, but I love it. Yeah, just seeing you guys pray. Absolutely. There's 50 great lessons there.
yeah, yeah, very much. And it's we consistently, since we started this business and decided that we were going to be taking it serious, like he says, that's in every aspect of our life. We have a wall in our dining room kitchen area where it has goal notes, where it's post-it notes, and a lot of those are the business notes. And my son will read it and be like, "Oh, you guys want to get this for the business?" Or like I said, we're praying and we're saying it. So each night we all take, between my husband, me, and my son, we're all taking turns saying the family prayer. And my son has actually also started saying, you know please God bless mommy and daddy's Amazon business. So
That's adorable.
something's working.
Have you guys ever captured that on recording?
No.
We haven't, no.
Please do. Trust me, the 20-year-old version of you guys will be so glad you've got that on. Just capture, because I look at video of my kids from 10 years ago, and it is a different creature. Their voice has changed, their countenance has changed, their confidence, and their just it's a different human. So you got
Yeah.
to capture those little moments, especially stuff as significant as that. Just sneak a little video, mom, sometime when
I,
so like that's
I'm sure
adorable.
dad could probably do it. He's pretty good with,
That's
getting the
that
sneaky
is
video.
absolutely adorable. Well, just as you guys were talking about, because we've raised five. My youngest is 16 now. I got our third wedding coming up here
Oh,
in
wow.
a week. Just life's moving fast for us in that next season. But we went through some Hebrew-based biblical training for parenting early on. It helped us so much. And one of the really cool things that you get to do when your kids are at the stage where yours are is we called it couch time. And this has nothing to do with business, but it's such a beautiful lesson all the way around. So anytime one of you leaves the house for a period of time and then comes back, right? Typically what happens when the parent comes back home is, the kids are the first thing acknowledged and the kids run up or where's the kids? You check in on the kids. But the Hebrew biblical principle is you find your spouse. It's not your instinct to do so, but you learn to make that your instinct. It's like, no, sorry, just wait. I got to go find your daddy. No, I love you. Yes. Okay. You acknowledge me, pat him on the head, but where's mommy? Where's dad? Like, boom. And then for 10 minutes, it's just the two of you, even if you just got off the phone and you're already caught up. But the kids get to see that the most important relationship in the house is the parents.
Yeah.
They come second to that relationship. That's the foundational core relationship of the home. And not only making each other feel special, which is a nice little bonus, but the kids are seeing, wow, okay, that's the foundation that I get to build my life on subconsciously. The lessons that go into that, kind of like seeing you guys pray,
Yeah.
just building in so many. They'll have memories of like, yeah, dad come home and he'd pat me on the head if he go find mom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that instills in them. And I remember the way they illustrated it by saying, it's kind of the other side of the coin, the negative of like, if you ever remember being a kid and hearing your parents really mad at each other, arguing, yelling even,
Yeah.
any of us experienced that? That's the opposite side. Remember how insecure and scary that was. It's like,
Yeah.
that's the foundation upon which I stand. And it is breaking right now. It is what
Yeah.
it sounds like to me as a kid. Right. So what's the opposite of that? Mom and dad putting me second
Yeah.
and just acknowledging the most important. And you only have that opportunity right when you return from being gone. We called it couch time. 10
Yeah.
minutes, you make the kids wait. Whatever it is they need can wait. And they just get used to like, yeah, okay, mom and dad got to loving each other for a few minutes and get caught up. And then I come next.
Yeah.
Isn't that
No,
cool?
that is it. That's a really great concept. I actually like that. I don't know how my 3-year-old daughter would feel.
Oh,
Call
it
her,
takes some work.
call her boss.
Trust me.
So.
It'll take a little work. It'll take, but that's, I mean, that's just a tiny snippet. It was like a
Yeah.
12, 15 week course. And And most of it was working on the parents and
Yeah.
your relationship and the parents. It's kind of like if you take your dog to a dog trainer, they say, we're not here to train your dog anything. We're here to train you.
You. Yeah.
Right? Being a good parent is not about training the kid necessarily, that you become who it is and they'll fall in line.
Sure. Yeah.
I love it. I just, I could do a whole podcast on that stuff. When I hear a couple that's trying to do life according to biblical standards and building a business and their family around God and godly principles, I got to throw a tip out there too. 'Cause I've been doing it a while, and I love that subject, and it all does flow in the
It
lessons
does.
you're learning, seeing the business, seeing mom and dad together, seeing them cooperate, seeing our family build something together, incorporating the kids into that. We did that for 20 years, guys, and let me tell you, all 5 of them have benefited in immeasurable ways.
Nice. Yeah. My son is definitely a follower of dad. So, my kids actually took him in for, take your son to work. And, I, being obsessed with matching outfits, decided to dress them alike. So,
Oh, that's adorable.
yeah. So, he definitely watches. But I think another important thing that we kind of implement is that we talk the business around him and he
Mhm.
has questions. And in a way, it kind of helps us with our communications about the business because, he might ask a question where I'm like, oh, yeah, I meant to ask you, how did that go with the new shipment that came in? And, my son was the one who initially asked about it, like, hey, dad, what happened to that big box for Amazon? So he's really kind of at the sponge stage, but I love that he asks questions. I love that he's curious about the business. I think for us, Amazon definitely is a gateway into a lot of our business ideas. But for us, we also want to show our son that, hey, like any business that you want, if you want to own a business, if you decide you want to travel, this is the kind of hard work you're going to have to do and put in daily in order to get those kind of benefits at the end of the day. So,
Rewards. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, just the number of lessons that come from having a family that's built around running a business, it's immeasurable.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys are doing a great job. Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, so
So,
the next tip that I had in regards to getting to that first 10,000 is test ASINs every day, right? When
Yeah,
it comes down to there's so many different models that you can take, whether it be wholesaling, whether it be retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, everything that's available. You got to focus on the one foundational piece, and that's one thing that we've been telling ourselves: master the replens business side first, right?
yeah.
Because it just feeds into everything. And so there's this book called The One Thing. Have you heard of it before?
I have. I haven't read it. I've heard
Great
of it.
read. Yeah, so by Gary Keller, great read. And the whole premise behind the book is find the one thing that you can do that'll, once done successfully, will make everything else basically unnecessary, right? And
Yeah.
so, in a lot of the stories that you've mentioned, there's people that have literally just, like you said, built 7-figure businesses just on replens.
Yeah.
That's without adding
That's
anything
it.
else,
Yes.
And would that be a game changer for us? Absolutely. That's life changing, right?
Yeah.
And so, focus on just building it. It doesn't have to be $1 million business, but it can be to the point where you can use those profits to fund some of the other ideas that you have. And so for us, that book is one. I'm like, okay, if I had a book that I can recommend that would really help move the needle for people that's in business, and in the early stages, it would be that because I've experienced it having the coaches, first we're like doing the replens. Then early on, I wanted to get into brand building, and Gary and Gary's like, are you sure?
That's great.
Uh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go way before this. And then I was like, oh, we're doing wholesaling. I got my whole webpage set up. But then it was just like I started doing the research and I'm like, I'm not really sure I want to, invest all that time, right up front for
And as
wholesaling.
his wife, it's helpful to have Gary and Gabe because, sometimes it's like, that's Brittany, she just doesn't see the vision right now because I'm too far ahead. But then, it's helpful to kind of have that soundboard because it's like Gary and Gay have been there, they've done that, they know the steps,
Mhm.
and they're like, hey, we will walk you through anything you want to, but this is our suggestion. And, I'm not going to say I'm always right, but 9 times out of 10, me, Gary, and Gay,
On the same
we
page.
Pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm reminded, and I'm more like you, Mike. I'm more like you, buddy, where at any given time, I mean, I've got a board sitting right here next to me that has the equivalent of like 15 or 20 sticky notes on it, each with an idea and a project that's currently in process. And I'm
Yeah.
bouncing from one to the other constantly. And I have to force myself in like, okay, no, this is the one we're on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clear the schedule, bolt this down. And that's a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Uh, I need to have people that kind of enforce that on me and things in my schedule that force me to do certain things at certain times. Or otherwise I do become, but I'm reminded of, it's either, I've heard it a couple different places, either as a John Wooden, one of the famous basketball coach, or an ancient African proverb. They both get credit for saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you actually want to go far, take a team. You can go fast for a short period of time and tackle all these things. And it's kind of, that's almost like, bouncing around and moving. It's the tortoise and the hare analogy again, right? Biblically, classic literature, modern psychology, they all teach us it's the pace. It's the
Yeah.
person with intentional pace, slow and steady wins the race. Bolt things down, seek wise counsel, take a team, right? Those are the people that win. The people that try to do it alone or do it fast or jump from thing to thing, that just doesn't work out. And unfortunately, that's where most people are in e-commerce, is they're stuck on that hamster wheel of try a new thing, try it fast. If it doesn't work, jump to a new thing. Don't ask anybody's opinions. Don't find a group of people who've been doing it for 20 years. Ignore them.
Yeah.
Just jump in because it's got a cool sales letter. Like pull out your wallet, try it. Oh, get the coaching for this. Okay, get the coaching for that. It's like they're just on this wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so many people find themselves there. I think a lot of the value that we bring to the e-commerce community at large is saying, hey, well, get off that wheel, dude.
Yeah.
Spend $100 and try this for a few months. Focus. But what about
Focus.
this? No, focus. What about that? No, focus, right? We spend a lot of our time saying it's kind of almost like the racehorse putting the
Yeah,
blinders
I
on.
was thinking that. Yeah. So, Jim, really to that point of the focus, and I think, as I've listened through some of the podcasts, I've heard a couple of guests mention it, and I'm like, what, this should really be a few minute piece. Part of the conversation is, what's your mindset coming into this, right?
Mhm.
Because you really have to be self aware, and that's one good thing that I think I took from being, a serial entrepreneur and starting this business and starting that business and stopping here, and is the fact that when I came into the Amazon and when a conversation with my wife had with me as well, is that we're going to do this one thing. This is what we're going to focus on. All these other businesses, we're going to put them to the side. We're going to focus all our energy on just this one thing. And when it's successful, then we can reinvest some of the money into some of the other things. And
Yes.
so, with that being said, it's really the mindset that you have to evaluate. Look at yourself, look at the man in the mirror and take a good look and say, hey, did those last 5 businesses not work because they were bad businesses? Or did those last 5 businesses not work because I can't stay focused? I can't stay consistent. I'm not tracking how I'm doing in this business. And so when it fails, I really don't know why it fails. I just chalk it up to, it was a scam, right? Or it was just,
Some
fluff.
outside factor out of my control.
Yeah.
Right. There's something to blame. And
Yeah.
I think, really understanding yourself and going into some of these personal development books and really self-assessing and just understanding the mindset. Now, Jim, I got a good question, a little pop quiz for you, right? Have you heard the idea of the percentage that's perceived that we use of our brain? What percentage do we use of our brain on average?
I've heard different numbers on this. I've heard there's some controversy around it as well. I've heard as low as like, 2, 3%. I've heard other people say, no, 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 actually, you count all the stuff that's going on, subconscious and all that, it's around 30, 40%, but I've never heard anything higher than like 50.
Look at that. So the average that I've heard is about 10%, right? So
Yeah.
even imagine like, oh yeah, you're doing 30, 40%. There's so much more of our brain capacity that we don't use, that we
Absolutely.
haven't, molded to help us hit the goals that we want in our lives. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of work I think that needs to be done internally at times and mentally before you jump into another business, right? And so think
Yes.
about it like, hey, it may not be those businesses because I once heard there's a motivational speaker that I like to listen to. His name is Eric Thomas. And one of the things that he says is that look at your life credit score, right? Not your financial credit score, because it tells you, hey, these are all the accounts that you have. This is how well you've done in them, right? When you look at your life credit score, can you do the same thing? Hey, this is the businesses that I've started. These are the projects that I've got into. How have I done in those? Was it me? Is there a common denominator in why they didn't work out? Or is there something else at play? And so if you can self-analyze like what those issues are and identify, okay, these are the reasons that these things weren't successful, now you can go into your next endeavor and make it happen. Because if a person is really successful at what they do, they can probably do 4 or 5 other businesses and being successful in those as well, because their character, their mental capacity is, to the point where they know they're going to be
Yeah.
successful you're going to make it work. But if you're not there,
Absolutely.
and you'll probably go into Amazon and not do well as well. So you
I
really have to.
completely agree. Yeah, I'm a fan of Rabbi Daniel Lapin. You've heard me talk about him, and he talks a lot about the 5 areas of focus: faith, family, fitness, finances, and friendships. Right, and if you can't ignore one of those and hope to excel in any of the others, let alone ignore two or three and hope to excel in the other two. Like, oh, I'm just going to focus on family and fitness. Well, it's not going to go too well for you, buddy, because finances got to pay for some. Like, those things are going to crumble. Faith, family, fitness, finance, friendships. You can't isolate. Friendships are very important. They're all important areas, and that's scriptural stuff. I love you talk about motivational speakers. One of my favorite that I like to use on folks is it's a Jim Rohn quote that goes something like this: set out to make $1 million, set out to be a millionaire. Not so you can have $1 million. That's a side benefit. But who you have to become in order to achieve that. Right. And the way I interpret that is building a business it's an internal self-awareness journey. It's a leadership journey. It's a self-improvement journey. It's a relationship journey. It's a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
People look at people who make a lot of money sometimes and think, oh, well, they got lucky and came up with some decent idea and I made a bunch of money. No, it's not winning life lottery to build a successful business. It's blood, sweat, tears, work, everything worth having. I've yet to meet an exception to this. When I was younger, I thought surely there's some people out there that are exception to this. Surely there's some Forrest Gumps out there that just kind of stumble around making millions of dollars. No, Forrest Gump was a fiction movie. Okay, guys, that doesn't happen. You don't just wander into millions of dollars because you see stuff laying around. It's sacrifice, blood, sweat, tears, work to get anything worth having. So if you set out to make money by serving others well, which is the only way to get it, unless you're a crook, that's business. It's launching your own business, man. That journey, that internal journey, you have to mature. You have to be self-aware. You have to put your ego aside. You have to serve with excellence. You have to build your relationships. You have to cry out to God. For me, I'm worthless without that. Like, God, am I on the right track here? Like, speak to me. He'll use my wife. He'll use my mom. He'll use my kids to get me back on track. So yeah, I'm hearing everything you're saying. And this is, to me, is more important stuff than the technical. But I see it as my obligation as, if I'm going to be a face of leadership, as part of the leadership of this community, is the ideas we're bringing to you, you can check the box that they're valid.
Oh yeah.
There's hundreds of people doing it. And here's the big trends in your favor. Now all you really have to ask is, am I going to commit internally to be the person that's capable of running a successful business? And we can't do that for you. That's what I hear you saying. No one can do that part for you.
Yeah. But it does help though, because even the days, where it's like, it doesn't feel like we're going to be able to hit that daily goal, you know, one of the things me and Mike always come back to is, just follow the program. Follow the program because it's worked. We've seen it. It works for people. We hear it works. We're able to reach out to our coaches and get that reaffirmed and just know that we're on the right track. But, there's been those days where it just feels like we're doing everything, but we'll go back, like, let's take another look at the program, and but like, well, what, we didn't do that step, or what, we didn't utilize all the tools at our exposure.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely helps kind of having that. I think we use your roadmap kind of as like
Blueprint.
the blueprint. We're
Yeah.
constantly checking back into it to see, like, is there a way around it? Again, we're in that Facebook group. What did you guys when you couldn't get ungated for this? And so for us, it's definitely, I feel like we've been more successful having the support of you and the program and our coaches, because even though we're able to keep ourselves accountable, it helps to kind of have that mentorship that I think the program kind of provides for us, that community that we need when we're feeling a little lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's the number one factor that I point out all the time when I'm asked is, what is that? And it's almost like saying, hey, what does it take to fly an airplane? Well, there's 1,000 things going on, right? And they're all working perfectly. Millions of people use it all day, every day. But what's just that one most important thing? It's like, it's kind of hard to identify, right? Well, with business, it's kind of the same way. But there really is one that belongs at the top of the list as far as like, what's the difference between people who make it in business, in e-commerce especially, and who don't? Because e-commerce can be very isolating. It can be just you and your keyboard. It's lonely by design at times. So you've got to be very intentional about building relationships. Like you said, the accountability structures, putting people in your life. And that's been your theme, Brittany. And I think females just kind of drift into relationships far more naturally than guys. That's God's design, right?
Yeah.
Guys, we're more interested in things sometimes. And, females, it's all about the people and the relationships and the relational scores. You keep track in your head, like the score of all the people that you know and how's that relationship. Guys don't do that. Like, hey, I haven't seen that guy in 8 years. Yeah, well, we'll just go hang out. We're buddies. We lose something by not being aware of like keeping track of those people in our life. I think that's a lot of the value of having a wife is like, hey, we haven't got together with this couple forever. We're great friends. Like we got to do it. And the guy would have been clueless, never would have thought of it.
Right.
But you got to be intentional about relationships. The people who are intentional, I had a call today, right before this podcast episode with you guys, we're putting together some content. He's built a system where he's intentional about relationships in a way that we wouldn't naturally default into, but he's made a lot of money because of it. He's got a system, the way he shows up, what he says, how he looks when he shows up, how he presents himself, what his business card says, and the people he's meeting. And it's led to incredible opportunities because he's intentional about relationships, not just being nice to the people you happen to come across, but pursuing those people that you can benefit them and they can benefit you. And he goes after them with intention. That's the most pivotal thing. If I had to narrow it down to one thing, the people who do that, find mentors, build relationships. Those are the ones that last. And I don't care what your e-commerce model is or what business you're in, that's going to be true.
Yeah, no, and to that point, that's actually one of the main reasons that we book our tickets to go to the conference.
We are
right?
very excited,
We are
actually.
very, very super excited, right? Reason being is for the relationships. We hear you harp on it on a regular basis, right? Just like you just said now. And we understand the value of it and, being around like-minded people, right? And so, it's that saying, birds of a feather flock together, right?
Yeah,
and so
for sure.
we know there's a lot of people soaring and it's going to be at the conference as far as our Amazon business goes. And we want to be able to, learn from them, befriend them, share, what we've learned and what type of value that we can bring. And so we're super excited about, getting to meet some of the people in this group at the conference.
But you gave me a pop quiz, Mike. What's the website for the event, for the conference? You remember?
Proven Amazon conference.
It's the Proven Conference.
The-
You were close.
For this month.
Yeah. Yep. TheProvenConference.com. Yeah, come join Mike and Brittany. We got at this point, we're expecting around 550 people or so, it looks like, to be joining us in Columbus, Ohio, July 6th through 8th. 40 breakout sessions, a bunch of coaches and successful students that you've heard on this show. That's our presenters. Something I love about this, we've done this 11 times, guys, and you've heard me talk about this, but for the listeners' sake, I think something that sets this event apart is that we don't fly in a bunch of experts that you could watch on YouTube. We put the people on stage who, in many cases, have never been on stage before, but there's the successful students from this community, listeners to this podcast, with something to share, a great story, a motivational story that'll just leave you thinking, okay, I like that person. They did it. I can do it too. And they're in the exact business models that you're trying to work versus a bunch of random outside guests and things that, that you'll never see again. These are people who are hanging out all day, every day in the same Facebook group and forming masterminds. So I think the event, what it's kind of become in my mind is it's just a way to propel the whole community forward by about 9 months in 3 days.
That's awesome.
That's really how I kind of envision it, right? It would have happened eventually anyway, these connections and relationships. We can cram it all into 3 days and just explode, because each time it goes to a new level, the new partnerships and relationships and the success stories that emerge from that event every year. So we're so glad you're going to be there. You bringing the kids too?
No.
No. We have FaceTiming for that. So
Gotcha. You got some good sitters. I love it. Well, some people do, and they've got a great zoo and stuff, but I'm not going to try to talk you guys into it. But if someone is considering, you will see some kids running around, not so much in the sessions unless they're able to sit, quiet and still and that kind of thing, which is a lot to ask for a full 9-hour day. But, well, that's great. So glad you guys are going to be there. Well, do you have any other questions for me or anything else that you guys wanted to go over, or anything else about your story? I love where your business is at. I think it's been a great episode.
yeah, I mean, honestly, we're just, like I said, we're excited for the next level. We're getting into the bundling. We're ready for the conference. we're really just kind of excited. Like we see how valuable all the information we've already gained access to is. And like we were able to reach our first goal, which was to get that 10K. So for us, I think we just see Amazon as a gateway to, our successful life. And for Mike and I, one of the most important things about, being successful in business and in Amazon isn't just that financial freedom aspect. That is a big thing for us. But also, we've always kind of been the kind of people where we want to see others do well. And, we've talked about Amazon for a while. I've talked to some of my friends and my family, and, there is a lot of skepticism in that, especially because they kind of know Mike and I, mostly Mike, has a lot of businesses that he dabbles in. But for us, we just love the idea of not just being able to be successful for us, but being able to reach back and help others and show the way. So another goal for us, doing all of this is to one day be coaches ourselves. The value that Gary and Gay are able to give us and, kind of hold our hand and like walk us through the process is it's
Priceless.
priceless. It really is. And, we want to one day be able to do that for other people. The sense of community you get with your program is just like nothing we've ever seen before, in any of the other businesses. And it's kind of like that feeling of everybody wants everyone to do well. And
Yeah. It's
yeah,
that abundance mindset.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so,
We can all have as much success as we want. You're not among competitors here.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think for us, that's our end goal is to be successful and help others reach success too.
Awesome. Well, that is the trajectory. That's my preferred trajectory is someone comes in, even skeptical. I love skeptics.
Yeah.
And then I listen to 5, 10, 15, 50 podcast episodes and hear stories like yours and others over and over and over. And they start thinking, okay, maybe I'm the problem. I'm going to give this a shot. And they start to see some results and they start to get confident and they build a beautiful business. And then they feel this sense of belonging and fulfillment associated with this community and almost like they owe us something, although you don't. But like they want to pour back in. They've received so much. I don't like the term giving back because that implies you took something at some point,
Right.
right? But you pour back into this source that's fueled you. There's a reciprocity there. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And maybe they step into coaching. So we've got a lot of people in our coaching team whose business got to the point where it's completely automated. It's this beautiful thing and it needs very little attention or time from them, but they want to pour into others, be that
Yeah.
mentor role. So they become a coach. And we've seen it happen many, many times that we don't have to go out recruiting coaches ever. We just find successful students who have a teacher's heart and they have that sense that you just described beautifully, Brittany, of just feeling this attachment to this community that's poured into them. And so it's a very natural fit and they step into that role. And that's, I had a great call yesterday with a new coach on our team. And it's almost surreal to me that there's names coming across my desk now of people I've never even heard of. And they've gone
Yeah.
through that entire system I just described. And now they're a coach on our team. And the last box you check as a coach on our team is you have a session with me and I just kind of get to know you a little bit. But it's a done deal at that point. And that's the first time I'm meeting this new coach, and they're in the
Yeah.
UK. It was like just blowing me away that the system has grown to that point. But I would love to see you guys get to that point. You've been through the paces, you're experienced, you're a solid couple. I love that you see this as ministry and that you're seeing this from a stewardship lens. Like this is God's business. Yeah, financial success. Yeah, that's great. But there's a lot of other bigger things going on here that we want to be a part of. I just love your hearts. And I can definitely see you on that trajectory, to be very blunt. Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
absolutely.
I know
And
Mike has a list of questions. So
let's go through them.
yeah.
Let's hit it. And I'll do my best. I'm far from the smartest guy on our team on most subjects, but I'll do my best.
Well, before I jump into to the question, I did just want to provide like one last tips as far as like on past podcasts, I hear about tools, right? And so I did want to share the list of tools that we're currently utilizing.
Sure, of
So from the beginning, we subscribe to Keepa, right? We use
Yeah.
Keepa,
course.
everything. We have the extension
Seller.
for RevSeller. We also
Yeah, love Rev.
Yep. We started using Inventory Lab, I think 2 months into our business. And like everybody says, it makes sending shipments in so much easier, right?
Yeah.
And I think, if you're looking to scale into that 10,000, you got to send at least one shipment a week, all right? You have
Yeah.
to keep that regularly
Great point. Yeah, regular shipments are vital.
So, we want to, double the 10,000. So now we got to do two shipments a week,
Soon.
right? So we're building towards that. And we recently, well, not over the last couple of months, we got a virtual assistant. We did
Nice.
reach out to your VA team, and it was like, okay, we invested in the coaching already. So we need to, kind of use some of the money that we have for sourcing. And so we decided to, train our own VA, but we used all the information from the podcast as far as, what you're teaching, tips to use. And
Yeah.
we utilize that in our process in hiring a VA.
I love it. Yeah, there's no reason not to. Just find a good VA who's willing to work, speak good English. Go to onlinejobs.ph or one of the other.
We got our guys. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many sites out there.
Yeah.
You put up an application or put up a job request on one of those sites, and you just get hundreds of people. It's like, wow, look at all these people ready to work hard. They have the technology. $4 or $5 an hour to them is life-changing income. It's the equivalent of 4 or 5 times minimum wage in the U.S.
And I do want to speak to that point, right? You mentioned $4 or $5, and I've seen in the Facebook group where people are like, "Well, how do you check the productivity? How do you know they're actually working the way they're supposed to be working?" So what's worked for me that I've done thus far is that I'm in the beginning stages of my business. I remember, I'm gonna tell you, my first corporate job. After full years of work, I remember going into the office to have my annual salary raise, and I was just so excited. And she smiled at me and she said, "Mike, you got a quarter raise." And I wanted to lose my mind because I'm like, she's still smiling. I'm like, does she think it's funny? Should I be appreciative of the quarter? Like I couldn't figure out like why she was so smiling. And so, I decided that, hey, I'm going to be much more generous in my raises. You do well, I will pay you, but I'm going to start you off. So for my VAs, we start them off at like $2,
Yeah,
like an hour or so. But
yeah,
we have
which is twice minimum wage in the Philippines.
right. And then the caveat is we will give you $1 bonus for every additional ASIN you find after 5. So our
Yeah.
guy finds us on an average of 5 ASINs a day. And for us, when we started, I mean, that's like 12 hours for the
Yeah.
no, honestly, it was more like we
That
find
was
2
a couple
ASINs.
days.
Yeah. It'll take us a week to find 5 ASINs, right? We were very slow in it. But once we understood what you need to look for, the basis, then it's like, okay, now we can hire somebody to
Yes.
pick up all that task, but
Right.
we evaluate the final buy,
Yeah.
right? And so we got our VA in February, and we only made like what $3,000 in sales that month. So we didn't wait so far down the line, and I think that made it so much easier for us because the sourcing was killing us. Like it was just the hours. It was not. We were not encouraged. We used Advanced Keepa to create a list of ASINs to source.
The module inside the Proven Amazon course, the Advanced Keepa training. Right.
Yep. So Brian Olson, and we just do online arbitrage. So we do 100% OA.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So 100% OA. It's much easier for my mind. Just go
Sure.
through my line and like go. I can check off the box. Okay, I went through
Yep.
all of these. But now we understand it enough where we can have our VA do it, and he sends on average about 5 a day.
Now,
to do
just
that.
to interject, because we're still very much in the early stages, it is a partnership. So, he's finding his own ASINs, but we're on our end still looking for ASINs because
Which-
one of the things our coaches told us was, even with a good salary, nobody's more motivated for you to be successful than you
Yeah.
are. So we're still
Exactly.
very much hands on, trying to build the ASIN account and stuff like that
Yeah.
with our VA.
Yeah. So we're still in the early stages of building up our replens list. We have about 189 in our list, but right now, when I last checked yesterday, it was only about 39 that's active. And so far, I still have to go through my entire list, but about 21 of those are replens. So we have a long way to go to build a very reoccurring business, our book of business, as you say. But at least this is the starting point, right? We definitely look forward to being here, a year from now and saying, hey, we're at 6 figures now, right? And so people can see the journey, but every big story that you hear, they all start off this way, right?
Yeah.
Small.
100%. Yep.
Yeah,
Small victories.
Yeah, and ours is more of a roller coaster ride. We had $4,000 a month that we dropped down to 2, then we're back at 6, and then now we're at 5. Now we're at 10,000. So just like they say, success is not a straight line. Some guys get on the podcast and it's like, but even the last interview that I heard, the gentleman that was doing 300,000, it
Mhm.
reminds me of the analogy where they say the iceberg, you only see the tip, right? But you don't see the miles and miles of ice under it, which
Yes.
represents the hard work. And so
Yeah.
he was
That's
in
the blood, sweat, tears, sacrifice, mistakes, bad buys.
exactly.
The times you used your instinct and then wondered, why in the world did I get off the proven path?
And so I think that that point illustrates to the fact that a lot of people hear these success stories, and the reason it seems so far removed is that they don't see all the hard work that came prior to that, right? And so they don't see the small beginnings. And so I think it's important as listeners listen to these success stories is that they remember, like, okay, don't forget the hard work that they mentioned that they put in, because it's very quick. It's like, oh, they said one sentence and then they moved on. But
Mhm.
it's very, very important when you're trying to evaluate yourself to see how you're tracking compared to them, right? You haven't been down the road that they've been to, so remember that your journey is your journey, right? It may take you longer, but that's okay. But you have to understand that not everybody's going to be the same path, and so I think that's big for your listeners as they kind of evaluate how they're doing, because we fall into the same rut of trying to compare, and sometimes it can be detrimental as opposed to helping you further along.
Yeah, yeah. When you're looking at their business, you got to keep in mind everything they went through to get there. For some reason, I'm reminded of a conversation. I think it was Michael Jordan was being interviewed one time, and basically someone's like, "Hey, if someone wants to be as good as you, like, what's it take? What's it?" It's like, everyone wants to be as well, everyone wants to be as good as the best. But what you don't see is, like, Kobe had that same work ethic. Kobe Bryant, right? Like, he was up 2 hours before anybody else. He'd
Yeah.
have a full workout before anyone else even showed up. And then when they're all going home, he's still there. And he's not doing it to show up, to show off, or to, he's doing it because he wants to be the best in the world.
Right.
He's got that internal drive. Like, you take that kind of, just a small dose of that kind of drive, that can go such a long way. But then someone goes to one game at the peak of Kobe's career, like, wow, what a gifted athlete. Yeah, yeah, he such gifted. What talent God gave that guy. Well, yeah, but
The hard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
the years and the things that he gave up on, the sacrifice, that's when I say blood, sweat, tears, and sacrifice, I'm not kidding. But that's every business.
Yeah.
Everything worth having. A good marriage requires that. Really good friendships require, being in good physical shape requires that.
Yeah.
Everything worth having. And I think some of the flaws that we identify sometimes when people are like, well, that person just got lucky because they're success. It's a flaw in our culture. It used to be understood.
Yeah.
Financial success means a ton of hard work. Like, that, this used to be something we admired, and now we write it off as like, oh, that person won life's lottery somehow.
Yeah.
As a culture. So I love that this is a theme. It's time well spent. Yeah, every success story you've heard, if you haven't heard me say it before, they made a ton of mistakes and they stubbed their toe and bumped their head and
Yeah.
fell on their face. But the beautiful thing is they got a model that we know works. So they got a community supporting them, and they did
Yeah.
continue on. They stayed in the struggle and built something amazing. And that's what it takes.
Awesome, awesome. So I think the one question that we have before we wrap up is when it comes to the brand trademark that we're going into.
Yeah, branded bundles and getting your trademark brand registry. And you were talking about videos earlier too. Yeah.
That was the question, right? And so, looking at the landscape, as you see the, brand registry, Amazon sellers, where do you see video as far as, being able to
Mhm.
build a brand
Yeah.
around the products that you're selling? Where do you see it's something we should be putting some attention on, or should we just focus on just the basics without worrying about how video is incorporated?
Well, in general, philosophically, once you've got a fairly stable system, even though you're still trying to grow it, it's stable. You know the moving parts. You're able to monitor it. It doesn't require your constant attention. I like to see about 10 to 20% of your attention go on to some of these other add-on consideration. Like, you want to be educating yourself constantly, learning new things, and failing, testing, trying new things too, with some of that extra 10 or 20% of your time and attention. You got to fit all that in. So most of your time is spent growing what you know works. 10, 20% of your time is spent learning, testing, failing. Now, specifically video and branded bundles, that's A plus content. I know the guy on our team of about 100 or so people that, content creators, coaches, moderators, all the people on our team that kind of lead this community. Nathan, our coaching director, is the biggest nerd we've got on that subject. You turn him on and he will not turn off on the subject of A plus content, videos, branded bundles, and all the advantages. He's the guy that put together the proven brand building course. And there's some of that in there. If you haven't been through it yet, there's a considerable amount, if I recall, of how do I get my bundle some momentum here now that I've got it launched. And yes, certainly creating videos that draw the attention of not only the viewers and the shoppers, but Amazon's algorithms really reward listings that are set up in a way that they take advantage of all of the A plus content options that are available to you, including video.
Gotcha.
The short answer is, should we put a video on there? Absolutely, you should. It's not going to hurt. It can only help. And Amazon really does seem to like those listings that have a good quality demonstration video that shows, um, a good tip I heard is once you start getting some questions about the product, whatever those most popular questions are, make sure you hit those head on in the video. I
Gotcha.
can't tell how big this thing is based on the picture. Does anyone know how big this thing really is?
Right.
Demonstrate with a video. Hold it up next to a common size item and for reference, this is how big it is. Make sure your picture demonstrates the actual size of it in that case as well. So yeah, answer those common questions in video form because that'll get people clicking and watching the videos, which tells Amazon, yeah, okay, these videos are engaging. People are using this to make a buying decision. Yeah, so absolutely.
Awesome.
Use video. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, there's tools out there now where you don't have to go get a great video camera or hire a professional video editor. The stuff you can shoot with your cell phone is phenomenal. And some of the AI tools that I know Nathan's getting into that just do some incredible stuff for basically for free.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of content you can look coming from us in the near future. The Proven Brand Building module inside the Proven Amazon course collection has a lot of that in it already. More is coming very soon. Nathan's working on it right now. Probably will present on it at the conference, actually. That topic of A+ content, branded bundles, what's working right now, what's the future look like. So you'll want to be sure to go to that session at the conference. We'll have live stream as well. For those who can't make it, get the live stream. Go to theprovenconference.com, get the live stream. They get you all the recordings as well in the event. But does that help, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I will be at that session.
Yeah. The thing I have to be careful not to do is to put put our leaders in more than one room at the same time as I'm working out the schedule. I'm working hard on it, but some of them have multiple sessions. And
Right.
oh, you got to be in this room at the same time. You got to be in this room over here. I made that mistake last year. It was kind of funny, but yeah, he's gonna be in multiple sessions, and that's one that he's gonna hit hard this year.
Nice.
Great question. Well, anything else on your mind, Brittany? Anything as we wrap this one up?
Well, that was kind of like a joint question.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I think for us, we're just really looking to maximize everything we can soak up from this conference. Talk to everyone. I'm sure, this guy, being the talker that he is, will, come away with everybody's contacts. So
That's the way to do it. Yeah. Have you heard me talk about the question? I'll probably talk about this during the opening session on day one as well and remind everyone, but there's a 2-word question that I encourage everyone to use at least 20 times a day. Remember what it is, Mike?
How's business?
Exactly. Music to the ears of any entrepreneur, right? Just saying it. I love the way it rolled off your tongue. I almost want to tell you right now. Man, let me tell you, this over here is working great. And this project, man, I thought this was going to work, but it's just not. And I can't figure it out. And yeah, you can't turn an entrepreneur off when you ask him that question. And there's nowhere we can go to get that same buzz.
Yeah.
You go to church on a Sunday, no one's going to come to you like, hey, how's business, man? I'll just listen to you for half an hour and have some ideas. Where else can you go? Well, this event, that's where you can go. And yeah, that's going to be the most popular question at the event again this year. And it always leads to great connections and conversations. So yeah, I love it, man. People are starting to use my 2-word question more and more. I love it. So anything else on your mind before we wrap this one up, guys? I think this has been a great episode.
No, we just want to thank you again
Yeah,
for inviting
thank
us.
you
Yeah,
for having us
super,
on. Yeah.
super honored to be on.
Truly a pleasure for me as well. I'm honored to get to meet you guys and spend a little time with you. Can't wait to see you in Columbus in July. Well, let me talk to the listeners for a second as we wrap this one up. Thank you for hanging out with Mike and Brittany and I. If this is the first episode you've ever heard of our podcast, you should know you can go to silentjimdotcom and find hundreds of episodes where we've interviewed people who have one thing in common. They've all used the Proven Amazon course to build a business. They're at all stages. They've built a beautiful business that's profitable. They've got momentum. They're seeing great things happen. Like we mentioned earlier, some of them have built 7-figure plus businesses, completely automated them. Others are in the newer stages, but we love diving into their stories, sharing tips and lessons. So listen to a handful of episodes as you're making up your mind about this community and the stuff that we teach around here. Let me ask one little favor of the listener as well today. If this is your first time or you've been listening to a few episodes and you liked what you heard, please leave us a review, leave us a comment. We love those iTunes reviews. Those really give us a boost. We recently passed 5 million downloads on iTunes. That's where most people who listen to this show get it. is as a podcast on iTunes. So if you can help boost us in the algorithm over there, get us in front of more new faces and friends, that would be very appreciated. Because that's our only marketing around here. We don't do any paid marketing. It's just word of mouth. And if you leave us a review, maybe tell a few friends about silentjim.com, we'd really appreciate that. So on behalf of the whole team that puts these things together and my great guests today, one last shout out, Mike and Brittany, you guys were tremendous. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And everyone else that goes into doing this show, it's such a great team I get to work with every day. God bless you, business building warriors. We'll have another great episode for you again very soon. Hey, before I let you go, I spent some time recently with a buddy of mine, Taylor Thomas. He's with Arbitrage Cards. He is the guy who is our resident expert on all things discounted gift cards, proper use of your credit cards for maximizing your points. As Amazon sellers, we spend a lot of money on inventory, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale. We're using a card to pay for a lot of that. Are you maximizing the use of points and discounted credit cards or gift cards? That's what he teaches. He's going to do a session with us at the Proven Conference, theprovenconference.com. If you can attend that live, the conference, you'll want to get live stream. So you can be sure to get the 40 plus sessions, including this one we're about to spend some time talking to Taylor about, which is maximizing your use of gift cards and credit cards. He's been studying it in depth for a while now. The website where you can go to get a free book that's all about what he understands about cards is silentjimdotcom/gift cards with an S on the end. Go check it out. It's a free download. He's a great sponsor of this community. He's served a whole bunch of people very effectively who are very happy with his service in our community. Some of them you're going to meet at the conference talking about their experience using discounted gift cards. It's a great way to build margin into your business without spending any additional money. He's really got it dialed in. So let's spend a few minutes with him. He's going to talk a little bit about what he's learned over the past few years of getting into gift cards and discounted gift cards and stacking your credit card reward points, that sort of thing. And I apologize as well. There's a little bit of an audio issue. He's actually in Argentina, so he had a little bit of fuzzy audio, but it was a fantastic presentation. And you're going to get to know him a little bit and come meet him and hang out with him at the Proven Conference, July 6th through 8th. We will see you there. There's a link in the show notes to his book at silentjim.com/gift cards, as well as a link to the conference. Theprovenconference.com is the website for that. So let's jump over and spend a few minutes with Taylor before I let you go today. Hey, Taylor, welcome back.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Doing good, buddy. It's good to see you again. And I know Arbitrage Cards been really growing lately, man. Let's get into it. What are you up to these days? How's it going?
Going pretty good. Yeah. So I've been in the gift card reselling business in general for about 3 years. We actually launched the Arbitrage Card website toward the end of last year. So the website itself was relatively new, but it's been growing a lot since then. We've got a lot of people in the community involved in it now. So yeah, just excited to keep the growth going on there and get yourself to more people.
That's awesome. Just describe, if you would, briefly, what does Arbitrage Card do? And I mentioned in the introduction, silentjim.com/gift cards is the website. You got a free resource there for folks. Like, who is this service for? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Arbitrage Card is a discounted gift card website for retail arbitrage and online arbitrage sellers. So we sell brands, like Sephora, Nike, Target, Home Depot, etc. Most of the popular brands that people go to source products for doing RA and OA. And, we try to focus on keeping large denomination gift cards, for example, so that it's, make it easier for people to manage, especially people who do a lot of bulk buying. But yeah, we just give people basically an instant and guaranteed way to increase their profit margin using discounted gift cards.
What kind of profit margins do you see? Like, if I'm going to buy a $500 gift card for, say, Home Depot, what might I pay for that card?
Right. So we have different rates. So you can either pay with credit card or via ACH. Normally the ACH rate is 30% better than credit card, just because we don't have the processing fees to tack on there that we get charged. But anywhere from, on average, it's normally around 6.5% between all the brands, even though the rates vary between brand, between denomination. But we do have on the site, there's the page where it shows all the gift cards, the whole selection of different brands and the different rates to check out.
So, that really adds up. You're talking what, it's like $30 or so of instant margin added to your bottom line for every $500 spent, just as a round number.
Yep.
Very much worth doing, an extra step potentially, but your money spends further basically when you use gift cards. And how do you come about these gift cards? Because when I first heard about gift cards, my first instinct was red flag, like, what are they stealing these things? Where are they getting these things? But how can you tell us? I guess there's a pretty significant market of people that buy these off people who never intend to use them, right?
Right. Yes. I mean, we have a couple of different ways that we source cards. So we do have some connections with direct distribution, not specifically with the brands themselves, but through companies that the brands work with. We also source from just different promotions that go on. So like grocery stores, from some online retailers as well. Sometimes they'll run limited time promotions on gift cards. And we just, are really good at finding those deals and also figuring out ways to scale them. Because a lot of times there's velocity limits on stuff like that. But there's a lot of that stuff that goes on all the time. That a lot of times people don't know about, but don't know really how to scale it. So we've just gotten pretty good at finding those deals and learning how to capitalize on them.
And I've seen even industry statistics that say only something like 65% of gift cards ever get used, the value on them. Like it is a real cash cow for the companies printing these. So they can run a sale from time to time and know that the odds of them actually getting used, right? So even if they sell it for, let's say, 80% of face value, they're still going to probably come out ahead because most people are going to stick them in a drawer somewhere and never use them, right? A lot of people anyway. So that's where you can see these discounted cards and you can buy them cheaper than face value. Well, cool.
Exactly.
Well, what's in that book? I know you've got again, we mentioned the website, silentjimdotcom/gift cards. If people go and grab that free ebook, what's in that and who's it for? You mentioned OA sellers, RA, retail arbitrage, basically anyone who's reselling inventory, learning how to use gift cards can add a few points of margin. But what all's in that book?
Yeah. So in the book, I mean, we've got some basic stuff about just, where gift cards come from, how people can use them to lower their buy costs on items they're sourcing and increase their margins. We've also got some, a few of the most popular gift card websites that are out there. Just some examples on there so that people can actually go online, compare rates and find, the best options for them. And then it also includes just some differentiators, about arbitrage cards specifically, and the specific ways that we, look to help, arbitrage sellers and really what sets us apart.
Gotcha. Yeah, worth grabbing. We've had a lot of people from our community grab that book and give us some great feedback about it. And, we've sent you quite a few users at this point, just so everyone knows. And we've had zero complaints, nothing but people saying, hey, these guys are great. So you're doing a great job. We've been promoting you for a little over a year now, I'd say, something like that, approximately. Since maybe the last conference, which, speaking of which, you're going to be a speaker at our conference this year. One of our 40 plus breakout sessions is going to be you presenting on the topic of not just using gift cards, but maybe stacking the discounts that you can get with the right credit cards. There's a whole strategy there where you can really start stacking some margin into your purchasing power using the right combination of gift cards and credit cards. And so just give me a little brief taste of what you're going to be doing at that session.
Yeah, so I've actually been more involved with the world of rewards credit cards even before gift cards, actually. So I've been doing gift cards for a little over 3 years, but I got my first rewards credit card 8 years ago, and then a few years after that, really started getting into just more in depth about how to maximize those rewards. And honestly, I think that I feel like most Amazon sellers, even ones who are really good at Amazon and sourcing products and profiting with that business model, are nowhere near maximizing the rewards they can get on credit cards. I think there's just a lot of stuff that people don't know. So one myth I feel like a lot of people unconsciously believe is that more credit cards is bad. But I know people who have a lot of cards and who have really good credit scores, who are just really good at managing the credit. So stuff like that. But honestly, people that have Amazon businesses have an advantage over just regular people because they're spending a ton of money each month anyway. So if all you did was just, get new credit cards or put that spend on the right cards without even spending more, you could be racking up ton of extra cash back, a ton of extra points, and basically be able to travel for free most of the time if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Well, we do.
But yeah,
That's what we do. We
right.
do all my Amazon spending on a travel card. And then anytime we need tickets anywhere, unless I'm flying all 7 of us, it wipes out the points pretty fast. But man, we've flown free. Most of the time we've flown anywhere in the world just because we're cranking all that inventory through the card.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know a lot of people, I feel like, and I guess this is just, what, everybody can figure out what works best for them. I know a lot of people just have like one card they put everything on, but there's a lot of people in the like credit cards and travel hacking community, as they call it, who just get new cards pretty frequently. And they get ones that have big sign-up bonuses on it. So if you kept like kind of rotating those cards in and out of there and getting a bunch of bonuses every month or two,
That's incredible. Have
extra
you ever,
potential there.
Oh, so, for sure, man. And that may be, some people are uncomfortable with that. And with a little investigation, maybe they'd be more comfortable with it. I've heard Dave Ramsey say many times, hey, no one ever got rich off airline points. And I agree.
Yeah,
for sure. But if I know I'm going to be spending $30,000, $50,000 a month on inventory, man, it'd sure be nice to be getting back 2-3% of that in some kind of benefits and rewards, when the only difference is instead of paying straight out of my bank account, I'm using a credit card now that I pay off once a month. It makes sense to me, right? And that really stacks up and adds up. And then you're talking about opening up all the new, bonuses and such.
I mean, you're talking about 2 or 3%, but honestly, a lot of those bonuses you're getting like 10+% back. I mean, it's not, it's only scalable to a certain point because you spend a few $1,000 and it's over. But I mean, that's one thing I want to cover. Obviously, a big part of the presentation is going to be gift cards, since that's what I do. But I'm also passionate about credit cards, so it'll probably be a hybrid presentation. And we'll probably go through gift cards first for like the first half of it and talk about arbitrage cards, how we differentiate ourselves from the rest of the market, and then go into credit cards, and also how you can stack both those things together. Because there's also a big potential for that. One of the things that we're working on with the arbitrage card that we don't have functioning yet, but within the next few months we should, is the ability to actually change some of the like merchant category coding on the back end. And I know not everyone's going to know exactly what that is and how it works, but basically we can set it up so that you could use certain credit cards to get bonus points on certain categories, but like buy gift cards through our site and it would still trigger those bonus points. Whereas normally, like, you can't do that. Buying from a gift card website online, it's just going to code as like general merchandise or something. But, you got cards that get 4x points or 4% back or whatever on, groceries or restaurants, or even 5% back at office stores. And even though there are some limitations and guidelines we have to follow with that stuff, we should be able to be a little creative and flexible with that. So, maybe you buy a gift card at 4% off, but you also get 4% cash back on your, credit card at the same time. And you're at like 8%, discount essentially combined. So that's one of the ways where we can actually stack this.
Well, if someone kind of dialed this in, I wonder, I'm going to do a little test question here. If it's a number you don't know, I'd be curious to know if you could figure it out and maybe do some calculations. But if someone kind of went all in, built a system, tracked their points, used the right gift cards and credit cards to buy them, and stacked their points, etc. Like, there's a fair amount of work there, but you could actually even probably outsource it to a virtual assistant at some point. Like, let's just really dial this in. How much money are we talking? Like, let's say I'm spending $20,000 a month. What kind of discount am I getting if I do it all right? Approximately.
Right. Yeah. So let's say 20,000. I was going to go on like 50,000. I guess 20,000.
Sure. Yeah, but 20 is probably more realistic for the middle of the bell curve.
That's true.
We've got people spending 6 figures a month every month, but just to use
Yeah. So let's say you're doing, $20,000. If you're getting 2% back, that's $400 extra a month in cash back, which is good. And obviously you're not having to do any extra work. But let's say you bought a discounted gift card and you get 4% off, whichever brand it is. Because they Target or something. So you get 4% off, and once we have the coding thing set up to get bonus points on some of those credit cards, let's say you get an extra 4% cash back, like I just mentioned, you're looking at 8% basically back on 20K instead of 2%. Now you're at like $1,600 a month that you're getting back, as opposed to $400, which over 12 months is almost $20,000.
Right.
So you,
Right.
so you enough money to live on just by
Yeah.
making a change in that strategy there.
So you
But,
pick up a VA to manage this for you, and let's say they cost you a couple $100 a month. Well
Yeah.
worth doing. You're making
Yeah,
at the end of the
yeah.
year, you're making an extra 15,000
Mhm.
plus just for doing it all right and
Yeah,
paying someone else to manage it for you, which would be an interesting service for you to
yeah,
maybe start offering. Is like, hey, we've got people that can help you kind of manage the make sure you're
yeah,
stacking all your
yeah.
discounts and card as a service, just as an idea for you. But I know you're growing a community
Right.
around people who are really trying to
Mhm.
maximize and leverage because we
Yeah.
spend a lot of money as Amazon sellers. You might as well make sure you're
Mhm.
getting the biggest bang for
Yeah.
your buck as you're spending those dollars. And that's kind of your niche specialty. So yeah, always learn something
Mhm.
new, man. Every time I talk to you, Taylor, good job, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's again, those numbers are even just if you're only using like one card. But again, if you're
Right.
doing that and like you're getting a new card every month or every 2 months, like, okay, there's an extra maybe $300 to $500, a month on
Yeah,
top
the
of that.
sign
So
up
it just depends.
bonuses.
It
Yeah.
depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to
How
go.
aggressive you want to get. Yeah.
Like you could just kind of keep it simple, which is fine. But I know people who are like go really deep into this stuff. So, but yeah, I think stacking those things, I mean, is something that I kind of geek out a lot over, and I just love talking about. So,
Yeah. Well, you've become a
but,
specialist and you've grown a beautiful business. You're providing great service. You've become very respected in our community and keep up the great work, man. I'm so excited that you're going to have a session at our conference as well. Of course, I'm
yeah,
talking about the Proven Conference, July 6th through 8th. The website is theprovenconference.com. Come meet Taylor, some folks from his team. You're bringing some family with you. It's going to be a great
Mhm.
event, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing you there and hearing this full presentation once I'll get to Columbus, Ohio.
yeah. Appreciate it, man. I'm excited for it too.
Yeah. Me too,
Yeah.
buddy. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll talk again real soon, okay?
Cool. All right. Catch you later, man.
See you,
Appreciate
brother.
it.
Bye.